You are now locked into the Red and Blue Rivalry podcast, the podcast where we talk all things San Francisco 49ers and Dallas Cowboys.
My name is Eric Hernandez, and I'm repping the faithful.
And my name is Philip Enriquez, and I'm repping for America's team.
Speaking of America's team, that's what we're going to talk about right now. You know, it's been a long time since we've talked Cowboys 49ers.
Too long, man.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's a lot of things that have happened. You know, the draft, we've got Dak's contract. You're, breaking camp. You're starting training camp with a new head coach. So I wanted to break down your thoughts. I mean, I know certain places will take, like, the Dak Prescott contract and they'll make 5 episodes across 7 months of it.
Yeah.
We're going to try to boil it down into 1 episode.
Yeah. It's real simple with the Dak contract. It's messy. His contract situation was the perfect storm. All parties have a hand in it. No one entity is completely to blame. Mm-hmm. It takes 2 to tango.
Yes.
2 sides. And they both dropped the ball. But I will say this, where the Cowboys and Jerry do deserve a little bit more blame than Dak's camp is, they could have got this done a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And it would have been more on their terms, I'm sure. But You know what? That's business. The bottom line is, can they get it done? Now Dak's on the franchise tag. He's going to play on that tag. It's worth, $31.5 million?
Yeah, I think so.
31.4, something like that. So, look, Dak's getting a $29 million pay raise. I'm sure he's happy. I'm sure he's going to be okay. He's not as happy as he could be.
Yeah.
But he's going to be all right.
Yeah, and I think that's true. I mean, I think what he was looking for was some long-term security and, some control. I get it because, I mean, he was a 4th-round pick. And I also look at just the character of Dak on the field. And it was like, this is the guy who doesn't miss a game, doesn't complain. Like you've said, he's a true leader, the CEO of the franchise, as far as the football field goes. And instead you paid the CFO who's out partying in Mexico first before you paid him.
Yeah.
He got the raise first.
Yeah.
The guy who brought in top sales and now is 5th in sales. You brought that, he got paid first. And I think where the issue isn't even just when they paid him, it's who got paid before him and what message that sends. Dak was paid far less than Zeke, far more valuable than Zeke. I don't think I'm saying anything crazy, especially recently. And you want to set that example. And I think if you're Dak, I'm sure you love Zeke and you love them all, but there's got to be a part of you that's like, wait a minute, I didn't hold out. I wasn't partying in Mexico. I wasn't, I'm not, I wasn't lifting up chicks' dresses. I wasn't causing headaches for the owners or them having to address things.
Hey, yeah. He didn't miss 6 games in 2017.
Exactly. So I wonder, how much of that is what really bothers him is, you paid these guys. And now for me, it's where's my 4-year, $100 and something million a year contract? Where's my money? Where's mine that you could have given to him after? Because I think his best performance was the year they didn't make the playoffs. Was the year in between where he was getting killed and he still went out there time and time again.
I think he showed his toughness that season. Yeah.
And I think that you want to build around that. I don't know if this is true, but I heard a rumor that he was upset that they let go of Jason Garrett.
That is his coach, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know how true that is. I've heard that same kind of rumor buzzing around. But I'll say this. As you can see, last season, he took step forwards in that offense. Yeah. Where you can see he had a command. You can see Garrett was a little more comfortable, trusting him to make adjustments, trusting him to check out of plays. Mm-hmm. And just, you can kind of see when a player goes from the student to a master. And he was getting there. I'm not saying he's a complete master yet, but he's a Jedi Knight at this point. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I think you got to at least question where you stand with the new head coach. Yeah. So I think that's legit.
That is true. And, the coach isn't going to throw you under the bus,
Right.
I remember, back when they hired Jake Gruden for the Redskins, or the Washington football team, I should say.
Yeah.
So when they hired them for the Washington football team, I remember him saying, oh, yeah, I'd love to work with RG3. I think I'd be a great one, and just booted him for Cousins. He's going to say the right things because you want to get hired.
Right. But the bottom line is they got to win.
They got to win, and he's got to be consistent under him. They have to show that they have each other's backs. That's going to be the question because, Jason Garrett had his back. He chose it. In theory, he chose him over Romo.
He did.
There's no two ways about it.
There's a reason Romo couldn't compete for his job.
Yeah, and so you can understand that loyalty. I think with Dak, where he screwed up, and you're right, where they should have paid him, but I think where he screwed up is he should have made the number at the beginning what the number was going to be. Yeah. And I do believe the reports that he had these 3 games. They were blowing teams out on offense. He was looking like an MVP candidate.
Yeah.
And then he changed the number. And they said, oh, no, we want this. And I think that's where you screwed up. If that's what you wanted, you should have picked that first.
Right.
You shoot for the moon, right?
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah.
you shoot for the farthest thing you can get.
Reach for the moon, and eventually you'll grab some stars.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what he should have done.
Right.
If you do, and I mean, I can understand, I'm not the biggest Jerry Jones fan, but I can understand if we have a deal in place. It's like anything. If I have a deal with you in place, hey, you're going to perform this service for me, and you want $300 for it. All right, cool. You can't halfway through the service or the first hour into taking care of something go, oh, you know what, I want $1,000.
Right.
Like, that really screws things up.
We had an agreement in principle.
Yeah. So I can see why Jerry Jones would be mad. I guess the question that it ultimately leads is, are we heading down a Kirk Cousins path?
It sure mirrors the Kirk Cousins situation, in my opinion. Let's just be honest. Let's be frank with ourselves. It looks a lot like that. It's a little scary of a thought as a Cowboys fan, but I just have to believe that Jerry's and Steven especially are a little smarter than Dan Snyder.
Oh, yeah.
And I think eventually even Dak knows, as much as he won't admit it in negotiations, there's money in being a Cowboy. He can probably make what he needs to make, say, with Minnesota or a Cleveland or something. That it's just not a big market.
Yeah.
The Cowboys are on every commercial. You know what I mean? I mean, look at Romo, look at Witten, look at Aikman, look at Dandy Don Meredith before that. These guys get opportunities in the booth, making just as much as they made on the field to call the game. He knows that.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting because it's like one of those things where I think it is almost like Kirk Cousins, where like, I don't know how much better they can be than what they were this year. Can they improve? Yes. But if you're telling me the way he gets paid long term by the Cowboys, he's got to make the NFC Championship, he can have like a little bit better of a year and they make the playoffs and are out and around. And that goal that they set is failed. So how much is that on him? Like if he ups his performance a little bit, but they fall short of the goal, is this turn on like, wow, you didn't do it again, so you still want Mahomes money, or you still want $40 million a year,
In my opinion, you get me to a NFC Championship game, and it doesn't all have to be on his back.
No.
But you drove the bus to an NFC Championship appearance. Write yourself the check.
Yeah.
Because as a Cowboys fan, every single one of us should be sick and fucking tired of being next year's champions. We haven't seen an NFC Championship since 1996. Think about that.
Yeah.
I was just watching The Last Dance. All that happened in 98. That happened before a damn NFC Championship game or Super Bowl for the Cowboys. It's ancient history. I need to see it. Dak needs to be the one to take us there, and that's the only way, in my mind, he can write himself a blank check. You know what? If he can't, like you said, if he falls short, then I don't blame Jerry for staying solid at his price. Why are we going to continue to pay top dollar for a divisional round playoff exit? We had that under Romo. We remember all the shit we used to give him. Why is Dak any different?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. So pointing towards maybe some brighter news for the Cowboys or something they can kind of hang their hat off this offseason was the NFL draft. A lot of people say, hey, they did great. They were able to get CeeDee Lamb. They were able to get Diggs.
Yeah.
I forget his first name, the defensive back out of Alabama.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a tape of him shutting down his brother in the end zone.
That was legit. Yeah, I saw that.
That's pretty cool. It gives you a little hope.
Oh, yeah, that he's got some skills. And that's never been the fault. But what was when you saw their draft class this year and you saw that, like, first of all, what did you think they needed going into the draft? And how do you feel about what they got coming out of the draft?
I think if you're talking purely from a need standpoint, you got to go defense. And the Cowboys kind of took care of that in the second round. By drafting Diggs, you get that player in the secondary that you're confident can come in and start. And that's what we need. Right now, I don't need a Deion Sanders to come and save the defense. I just need solid players that can do their job, have confidence against NFL talented caliber receivers, and be able to just compete. That's what we need, and they did that in the second round. But then, and obviously you can't blame the Cowboys for taking Lamb in the first round. I mean, I'm surprised he dropped to us. I think a lot of teams that picked in front of the Cowboys are probably saying they wish they had Lamb. To me, I think he's an awesome wide receiver prospect, but again, he's still a prospect. But even if he's half as good as he's anticipated to be, I think that Cowboys wide receiver core is going to be a top 3 in the league. With Cooper, Gallup was emerging last year. He was a 1,000-yard receiver. And you add somebody like Lamb, Dak's got no excuse.
Yeah, with Lamb, I remember doing a lot of homework on him, when I thought the Niners were going to take him. And one thing about him is he's not, okay, he's almost the opposite of Cooper. In the sense that he's not going to get this massive separation. That was more of like a Jerry Jeudy. But when he gets it, A, he's going to get it.
Yeah.
And B, once he gets it, he's gone.
Yeah.
I remember John Lynch talking about they viewed him as probably the best receiver in the draft. So just going over their picks, they took him in the first round, CeeDee Lamb, out of the wide receiver at Oklahoma. Second round was Trayvon Diggs, defensive back out of Alabama. Third round pick was Neville Gallimore, the defensive tackle out of Oklahoma.
Right.
Final couple were Reggie Robinson, the second cornerback out of Tulsa, Tyler Baidazian, the center out of Wisconsin, which is something that they want to invest in.
They're familiar with centers from Wisconsin.
Yes. They hit a grand slam with one.
Yeah, they did pretty damn good.
Bradley and Nye, the defensive end out of Utah, and Ben Naducci,
when we start getting into those later picks, I don't know what to think. No. I've hardly seen any of those players play.
Yeah.
To be fair with you, they don't play for big programs. They don't play on Saturdays. I don't see them.
Or even if they do, they're not the stars.
They're not the stars. Yeah, exactly.
The Wisconsin center's probably got to give you a little bit of hope.
It does. I'm just kind of disappointed because I don't get to see them in preseason. I would love to have a strong opinion for you. I would love to say,
of course,
I've been watching these guys. Hey, I went to training camp in Oxnard, and we're not getting the opportunity to do that this season. Yeah. So when it comes to these rookies, especially outside of the prize rounds of 1, 2, and 3, I don't know what to think of these guys.
Yeah.
I don't know what to expect. I'm just being honest. I'm keeping it real on this podcast. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I am confident that Lamb is going to contribute.
Yeah.
And again, like you said, he's not going to be our Cooper or even our Gallup maybe for at least the beginning of the season. Where I'd imagine Cooper's catches, as far as statistics go, he's going to be leading the clubhouse.
Yeah.
But can Lamb be that explosive receiver that makes 1 or 2 big plays a game?
Well, what happens is the thought process, who knows how they're going to use him, but the thought process was to put him in the slot. Because he had a little bit of trouble getting off a press, but that's not his game.
Yeah.
But you get the ball in his hands, he just makes people miss left and right. And like you said, it's going to be so weird because you don't get reports like, oh, these guys are getting ready. You don't see them in the second half, or how do they handle. Like, if this guy's getting beat up by other second half teams, you know he's not good, or if he's manhandling.
Right.
I mean, you saw Dak Prescott off a preseason game. That's where his name started. And that's where his legend started.
Yeah.
It was a preseason.
Yeah.
And we're not getting that. And that means that we're going to see a lot of issues, especially at the beginning of the season. And that brings me to the Cowboys and new coach, new scheme on the defense, 100% new scheme on the defense. Yeah. Similar scheme you would think, bringing back the same offensive coordinator in Kellen Moore. What do you see, or what do you want to see out of this season?
I think what the Cowboys are anticipating, what's on the drawing board, is a juggernaut explosive offense. It has to be. If Dak wants to get his money, this has to be an explosive offense. Win or lose. Doesn't matter. You got Ezekiel Elliott. You got all the weapons. Let's be honest, but as much as I love Jason Witten, he'll be a Cowboy for life in my eyes. He is somebody that in the middle can only run those short routes. I think he's really going to stretch the middle. He's going to hit the seams, and as far as Jarwin goes, and that's something that we're not used to seeing for the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Just so I think this offense has the ability to open up, attack you deep, all the way down the field, on the outside and on the inside now, with Zeke being a good pass blocker, pass catcher, runner. There's no excuse. There really is no excuse. This has to be a juggernaut of an offense. And you're hoping that schematically Nolan can coach up this defense, give you different looks, keep an opposing offense at least guessing, and keep that team in the game. You're just looking for that defense to be overachieving. Because let's be honest, I don't think anybody's expecting it to be great.
No. I think what you want is a defense that can get a takeaway, basically schematically. You draw, you scheme up pressure, you scheme up a way to get the ball. get it back in their hands. If you get into the red zone, you shut them down, hold them to field goals.
Yeah, give them a look they're not expecting in a third down and get them off the field. Something. Yeah. That's what you're hoping for, because they're not going to shut you down all game long.
Yeah.
They're not going to beat you, just line up and play your game.
No.
It's not.
But I think the final thing is the schedule. And when you look at the schedule, you guys play the NFC North, the AFC North and the NFC West. But like you said before, and we said offline, it's about that division.
Yeah.
And the ultimate question is, can they beat the Eagles?
Yeah, that is the $1 million question for 2020. So hopefully, God willing, this season is blessed and we're going to make it from beginning to end. The Cowboys need to prove that they are head and shoulders above the Eagles. Come on, are you worried about the Washington football team?
No.
You worried about Daniel Jones and the Giants?
No.
I mean, it's a two-man race.
Yeah.
It's a two-team race. And Carson Wentz, say what you will, but he played pretty damn good down the stretch. Okay, he has his stretches where he doesn't look that good. I get it. Even Eagles fans sometimes get frustrated with Carson Wentz. But you see that the talent is there. You see he has the ability to lead a high-powered offense. Dak needs to do that consistently. And I think that's going to be the difference, is whose offense is going to be the better offense. Because I don't think that this division is going to be won on defense. I think it's going to be won on offense. Dak needs to prove that with these weapons, he can take advantage of it. This new coaching staff is going to keep them focused for a whole 16-game schedule. None of this Jason Garrett shit where we go on an 8-game stretch, defeat Peyton Manning, and then lose to a player like Mitchell Trubisky. That cannot happen. You cannot lose the easy games. If we would have won the easy games last season, if we would have just beat the Bears, what happens?
Win the division.
That's all that needs to happen. That's got to be the difference between McCarthy and Garrett. And that's what I think all Cowboys fans and Jerry Jones are hoping for.